Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest today is Clay Holderman. He's CEO at AVIA, and Mike Taylor, VP of Intelligence Platform at AVIA. Welcome, guys.
Hey, greetings, John. Thanks for having us back.
Hey, John, good to
That's
see you.
Yeah, excited to have both of you here. I mean, we've known Avia for a long time. You've been through quite the evolution, acquisitions, all sorts of growth. So excited to learn more about where you're at today. But before we go there, Clay, why don't you start us off? Tell us about yourself and Avia.
Yeah, appreciate it, John. Clay Holderman, CEO at AVIA. Prior to that, I had a long career in leading health systems. I was CEO at Unity Point Health in the Midwest and EVP and COO at Presbyterian in New Mexico. Avia exists to partner with health systems in their digital transformation. We help people go from doing digital to being digital, all things advisory, but more so than ever now. Today, we'll talk about our intelligence platform, where we believe we've really created a trusted source of truth in this rapidly evolving technological environment.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot happening. I think everyone's asking the question, how do we keep up? And I think you help, address some of that for people. So I really love that. And I saw that, and kind of saw, and we shared it on Healthcare IT Today that this last fall at Health, Avia announced the acquisition of Panda Health. Give us kind of an update on that acquisition, the integration, and how it's kind of shaping Avia's mission going forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that, John. At Health, this was really just a strategic priority for Avia, and we were laying out what we hoped. This has actually exceeded all of our expectations. The team that we brought in, including Mike Taylor, who's with me today, have just been phenomenal. And the depth of research and the power of the Panda platform's research has taken the Avia marketplace to a whole nother level. We had similar offerings, but we recognized much more than that. This wasn't about acquiring a competitor. It was really about two organizations that were united by exactly the same North Star, the same mission of serving health systems on their transformation journey and bringing them together to make each of them stronger. We've always been a transformation partner for health systems, providing insights and advisory and collaboration. But we're finding that the world is evolving so quickly that it's almost too fast for traditional consulting alone. So by bringing these two offerings together and creating the Avia Intelligence Platform, we've really created a trust infrastructure that allows health system leaders to stay up to date with what's happening in this rapidly evolving landscape of solution providers and health technologies.
Interesting. Mike, I love that you're the VP of the intelligence platform. I think everyone would love to be VP of intelligence. I like that. That's a great title. But, tell me a bit about yourself and also the transition from kind of, I think I would describe it a marketplace to, this intelligence platform that Clay talked about.
Yeah. And thanks again, John, for having us. So, like we mentioned, my name is Mike Taylor. I lead our intelligence platform here at Avia. And I came to Avia through its acquisition of Panda Health, like we were just talking about. And at Panda, I spent 5 years advising health system leaders on digital health adoption and building the research platform that Panda used to serve them. Prior to that, I worked in consulting and also worked at a couple different health tech startups. So I definitely kind of understand the full perspective of both the promises of technology and the challenges of change management and realizing value. And really, when we look back at it, both Avi and Panda were originally built around the procurement process, helping health systems evaluate, select, and adopt innovative technologies. And that's still really core to what Avia does. But as Clay mentioned, the landscape has changed, and we've really had to evolve beyond just thinking about procurement to thinking about all the decisions that need to happen before, after, and in between that procurement process as well. So, over the last several months, my team and I have been working hard on integrating the legacy Avia and Panda platforms together into one. And the result is what we're calling the Avia Intelligence Platform. And as you alluded to, John, that's a deliberate name change from the Avia marketplace that people might know and be familiar with. And what we really thought about was that, a marketplace is somewhere where you go when you're already ready to shop. But an intelligence platform is where you go when you really need to understand something. And that's a much better description of how we found that health system leaders were actually using the platform. And as the market continues to accelerate and change faster than it ever has before, leaders are coming to us most often wanting to get smart on a specific type of technology. What's possible? What does good look like? How is that definition of good changed from what it was 12 months ago? And so I think a scenario that we think about a lot and we hear from our customers a lot, and I'm sure we can all relate to, is the scenario that every health system leader has been through dozens and dozens of times. And that's a physician leader comes back from a conference. They're super excited about this new company that they met. But before you can really even decide if that's worth a demo or a conversation with that vendor, you need to answer a whole bunch of questions. So, what type of technology is this? What problem does it solve? Is that problem actually a problem we have as an organization? Is this an established company, or is it a new company with a lot of promise, but they don't really have a track record of success yet? And do we already have something in our tech stack that does this? And we all know that health system leaders don't have time to spend a week trying to figure out the answers to those questions. And what they really need is an on call research analyst. So that's what we're building. And that's why we think that intelligence platform is a much better name.
Yeah. I mean, that is a different way to look at evaluation of systems. And Mike, tell us, so is that the value that health system leaders will get from this intelligence platform, is being able to dive into the spectrum of companies? Will they be able to discover companies? Like, what's the value of the platform to them, and how should they be leveraging, what's available to them in the intelligence platform?
Yeah, great question. And one thing I do want to mention is that everyone can access the platform. So the core research that we're putting out on the platform is free to everyone, whether you're a clinical informaticist or a digital strategist or a CFO. Please come and take a look at what we have, because I think it'll be helpful. But to get a little bit more in detail of like what we actually have in the platform, we've defined 115 different categories of digital health technology, and every single one of those categories has a complete AVIA created buyer's guide. And each one of those buyer's guides defines what the category is, it explains the problems it solves, and it lays out what good solutions in this space should be able to deliver. So everyone can access those guides. Though our AVIA members do unlock deeper insights and they have access to some additional content like curated lists of leading vendors with context on how those vendors differentiate from each other. So, with that kind of category landscape and definition, a health system leader can go from zero to genuinely informed in a relatively short period of time. Then, in addition to that, we also have over 6,000 digital health companies profiled on the platform. Any vendor can come and claim their profile and add their own content to tell their story. They can talk about details about what their product does, provide customer lists, help solicit reviews from healthcare providers that actually use the product. And another thing that we do is Avia assigns all of those vendors to the right ones of those 115 categories that we defined. For our members, we also then layer in an additional component of Avia authored research on each vendor. And that's a more objective layer of analysis that gets you a little bit deeper than what you'll typically get from the materials that vendors provide on their own. So even as a free user, though, having that context of like peer reviews, customer lists, vendors organized into categories that make sense, we think that's a meaningfully different starting point than a web search.
Yeah, well, I'm still processing the fact that you have 115 different categories. I think, now we understand why CIOs are so stressed and overwhelmed on where they should go next. Because yeah, that there's so many categories of opportunity, right? But every opportunity also requires resources. So, wow, that's interesting, and I love that you're making the data available. I mean, Clay, talk to me about that, right? When I think of this deep research that's available, usually it's behind some sort of paywall, or it needs six-figure consulting engagement with some big consulting company to be able to do this. So why did you decide to kind of make, a lot of this data free and available to them on the intelligence platform, so that health system leaders can get access to it? And then, talk more about what the Avia members get as well.
Yeah, and I'll end that just by telling a real life story about how one of our members really got through that paralysis of research and using the platform. But starting with, Avia exists, to help accelerate digital transformation. So anyone with a health system domain, email domain, can access the platform for free. And we want to make this in these buyer's guides, this information, this organization of the marketplace. We want to make it available because it's our mission, founded by health systems, for health systems, to advance digital transformation. Now, premium subscribers and Avia members can get access to deeper Avia research and Avia points of view about really where the leaders are in categories, how they differentiate, more information around use cases. And then we can bring that all together with Avia's advisory services as well. So we recently had a very large health system member in the Midwest who came to us, and they had over 20 digital initiatives that were across three pillars. And they were frankly just paralyzed by the amount of research needed and to move forward and the lack of resources. This engagement probably would have taken us about 3 months to help them through in our prior advisory life. But powered by the intelligence platform, we were able to evaluate 60 companies that could fulfill those 20 initiatives in those three categories in 3 weeks. So it cut the cost of the engagement dramatically, and the amount of time that would have been spent in just bespoke research was now spent in more high value work like stress testing, matching solutions with specific clinical constraints, thinking through change management approaches. So the platform, we make it available in a democratized form to everyone in health systems with a validated domain. We have premium access that can allow people to do their own research and really come up with their own insights. And then we can use it to fuel our own insights teams to provide bespoke consulting work and help people advance their strategy and their roadmap.
Wow. Yeah, I love that you work with so many, health systems, hospital organizations to be able to do this. It must be a huge responsibility to also that goes along with that. But Mike, we've talked about the health system side. I'd love to hear about the vendor side. Like, how do they fit into this ecosystem, and how can health IT vendors and other vendors like them be able to participate with Avia as well?
Yeah, and I think we all know it's a really hard market for digital health technology vendors right now. And
Yeah.
we know from the work that we do every day that there's thousands of companies out there that are doing meaningful work in the technology space, but health systems have really not heard of most of them. And that's a real problem. And it's not just a problem for the vendors that are trying to grow, but it's also a problem for the health systems that could be benefiting from solutions that they don't even know exist. So first things first, any vendor can come onto the intelligence platform and claim their profile completely for free. There's no cost associated. They can add their story, they can talk about their products, they can add their perspective on how they serve health systems. Because similar to some of the mission driven values that Clay talked about, we want every technology solution company to also have a chance to be found by the people that are looking for exactly what they do. But beyond that, because health systems come to the platform specifically to learn and research, there's a real opportunity for vendors who want to go deeper and work with us even further. And we're working with vendors to co create educational content that's genuinely useful to health systems. Things like the real questions to ask during a vendor evaluation, the change management challenges that don't show up in a sales deck, how to build a realistic ROI model, and talking about what peers are actually doing and the challenges that they're facing. And that's the kind of content that gets read, it gets shared, and it builds a lot more credibility than I think a lot of the, generic thought leadership that you kind of, see out there that some vendors are putting out. And when that type of content is co-authored with Avia, we believe it lands differently than a typical marketing piece because our name is on it, our experience and perspective is behind it. So the bar is higher and the credibility is real. And we've developed a lot of trust with our member health systems because Avia remains completely solution agnostic. And when we work with vendors to help create educational content, that trust transfers to the things that we co-create with them. And it becomes content that not only helps move the industry forward, but can also help vendors that are looking for additional exposure to get that exposure in a more credible and backed way.
Clay, I'd love to hear your perspective on kind of the vendors as well. I mean, it's an interesting balance. I think at your core, you want to be valuable to the health systems, but introducing them to the right vendors is valuable. Is that kind of the premise of where you at and how you bring this community together?
Yeah, it's the solution company environment, which is we like to call them solution companies, and as opposed to just vendors sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, they are so valuable to accelerating transformation, and yet there is so much noise in the market, it's impossible to sift through. And so having an intelligence platform, an intelligence engine that really can categorize this, cut through the noise, get you from the hundreds, if not thousands of potential solutions down to the handful that you should really be considering based on your criteria, your needs, your use cases, and just getting educated on what a mature set of offerings should look like. That's what we do with this intelligence platform. It's important for solution company leaders as they plan their go-to-market strategies, how they present themselves to market, as they plan their development life cycle. And it's important to health systems as they evaluate solution companies and get matched and really cut out a lot of time from evaluating companies that really don't meet the capability set that's needed.
That's awesome. Mike, where's all this headed? Where's Avia going next? I feel like you just started integrating it, but I'm sure you have a roadmap of other opportunities and a longer term vision. What do you see? And then Clay, if you want to chime in as well, I'd love to hear your long term vision for Avia.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about kind of some near-term things and then also a couple long-term things. So from a near-term perspective, one of the things that we're bringing to the intelligence platform is benchmarking. So for
Mm,
many years now, Avia has run one of the most robust digital benchmarking programs in the industry. We cover about 150 different data points across consumer engagement, virtual care, AI adoption, pretty much
mm.
anything you can think of, we cover it. And we're working on bringing that data into the platform so health system leaders can start to benchmark their own decisions against what their peers are actually doing. The second thing that we're working on near term is a digital member community. Our Avia members have always been extraordinarily collaborative, sharing learnings and insights with each other. And we want to formalize that by launching an online peer community. So when a health system leader wants to talk to a peer who has a direct experience with a particular vendor or a type of solution, we want them to be able to find that connection quickly, because that peer perspective is what we keep hearing is often the most valuable signal in the entire decision-making process. And then longer term, our vision for the platform is really to become the real-time intelligence layer for how health systems make digital decisions, all the way from kind of initial research and discovery through evaluation, peer validation, and then ongoing portfolio management. So one thing that we're exploring for the future is a structured vendor vetting program, because we keep hearing that one of the most persistent pain points is the gap between vendor sales and marketing materials and what health systems actually need to know to be able to shortlist vendors for an RFI or an RFP. So we want to build a process where Avia asks vendors for specific operationally relevant information and then reviews and verifies it. So over time, we create this library of pre-vetted solution companies and profiles that can help better inform that matching of health system needs to options that are going to be suitable for them. And then second, we really think that there's a big opportunity to get involved in app rationalization. So I think as we've heard, health systems are sitting on so many different digital tools. Many of them overlap or underperform or just were never fully rolled out. So imagine with all of this information that we have, imagine if we could surface in real time what's changed in a vendor space, where there are overlapping capabilities in the health system's tech stack, and what have peers been doing to continue to evolve in this area. And we think that having something like that will become a really powerful tool for rationalization decisions.
Interesting. Clay, what would you add as far as where Avia is headed and kind of that longer term vision?
Yeah, what Mike said is so important, and I'll pick up on the app rationalization piece. As a former health system executive, the pressure has never been greater. Not only is it a post-COVID environment, not only is it the end of the baby boomers aging into Medicare age by 2030, not only are they dealing with Medicaid work requirements and the rest of OB3A, HR1 implementation. I mean, but this speed of transformation and digital adoption, this agent washing that's happening throughout the marketplace where people are making claims just to use buzzwords and get people's attention. The promises being made by EHR vendors about the what's going to be available in the core platform versus the all of this is challenging to people sitting in the chair, and Avia exists to help make sense of that, right? And so I think app rationalization is a perfect example of where we can help people meet the tighter margins, provide sustainability, clean up their app stack, separate the claims in EHR roadmaps and in fragmented best-in-class solution companies from reality, and really have a strong peer-informed point of view about where to make bets. And so that's really where we are. Finally, the intelligence platform, it's incredible in what we're offering publicly, but it also is changing how Avia is powered internally.
Mm.
It's a repository of our own knowledge management system. And when we engage with health systems, it's a way that we can inform with real world evidence, peer vetted use cases, peer vetted ROI, and we can enrich those data. So it's not just what's publicly available, but it's enriched by proprietary databases, and it's enriched by the peer experiences of our collaboratives, our advisory work, and what we learn from our members. So you seeing this move from what was two distinct products, a marketplace and an advisory practice, is now one product. It's one engine that powers our ability to meet our mission, helping health systems transform more quickly.
Awesome, Clay. That's really interesting. So, if people want to get involved with Avia and want to learn more, where can they go?
I think there's three distinct calls to action. If you work in a health system and you have a need to understand the digital landscape in any space, you're prepping for a vendor conversation, you're evaluating solutions, you're just trying to learn the art of what's possible, what good looks like, you can come to our platform and use it for free. Come explore, use your email domain to set up an account and see what we've built. We encourage you to come in. We think you'll find it very, very meaningful. And if you're an Avia member already, you have premium access, which means enriched content, Avia points of view. And even if you're wrestling with something and need some advice, reach out to your client engagement specialist and we'll hold your hand and walk you through the process as well. And if you're with a digital health solution company and you believe that your work could be better understood in health systems, you're committed to an education first approach to educating the market about your product, come visit the platform, claim your profile, start telling your story, and let's look at ways we can work together.
Well, in this world where data is gold and everyone wants more data, I love that you have a plethora of data that you're making available to health systems to be able to solve this really important challenge of too many solutions, quite frankly, and understanding which solutions are the best and are the best for a particular organization. So, Clay, Mike, I appreciate you both taking time to talk with us and share your insights and perspectives, and especially kind of the I don't know, transformation, evolution of Avia, and of course the integration with all the Panda Health assets and resources and data as well. So thanks so much to both of you, and thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcast application. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
John.
John.